Have you ever paid more for a single flower than you would for a house? Welcome to the story of Tulip Mania, the tale you've probably heard about the world's first and most ridiculous economic bubble. The one where, in 1630s Holland, a single tulip bulb sold for the price of a mansion and then crashed, bankrupting everyone. It's a perfect parable for greed and madness. But what if I told you that almost everything you know about it is wrong? I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this is the Curiosity Compendium. Let's dig into what really crashed the first economic bubble. First, we need to set the scene. The Netherlands in the 1630s was the Silicon Valley of its day, a global trading powerhouse flush with new wealth. And tulips, newly imported from the Ottoman Empire, were a stunning novelty. Their vibrant, broken patterns caused by a virus made them unique and unpredictable. They became a status symbol for the merchant class. But here's the first myth. It wasn't the common people trading their homes for bulbs. The mania was largely confined to a specific group, wealthy merchants and skilled craftsmen, a kind of middle-class elite. They weren't trading actual bulbs in the ground most of the time. They were trading promises to buy bulbs at the end of the growing season. These were futures contracts, scribbled in taverns. So the market wasn't for flowers, it was for pieces of paper. Now the peak. In early 1637, a single bulb of the most prized variety, the Semper Augustus, could indeed fetch a price that matched a luxurious Amsterdam canal house, around 5,000 or 6,000 guilders. An average craftsman might earn 300 guilders a year. The numbers are staggering, but this is where the story gets twisted. The astronomical prices we always cite, those were the asking prices, the peak bids in a frenzied auction. There's little evidence many bulbs actually sold at those sums. The market was driven by speculation, yes, but it was a much smaller, niche financial game than we imagine. So what caused the crash? The popular story is a sudden, collective awakening, a moment where everyone realized a flower bulb wasn't worth a mansion. Poetic, but not precise. The crash in February 1637 wasn't triggered by a loss of faith in tulips, but by a simple failure of a contract. At a routine tavern auction in Harlem, a buyer simply didn't show up to finalize his promised purchase. That default created instant, paralyzing doubt. If one contract was worthless, were all of them? Panic spread within days. Sellers tried to find buyers for their promises, but no one wanted to be left holding the paper. The bubble didn't pop, it deflated, because the trust required for that paper game evaporated overnight. And the aftermath? This is the biggest myth of all. There was no widespread economic depression, no lines of bankrupt beggars in the streets of Amsterdam. The Dutch Golden Age chugged right along. Why? Because the actual damage was limited to the circle of speculators. The courts got involved, and they made a very practical ruling. Most of these contracts were renegotiated. Buyers could walk away by paying the seller a small penalty fee, usually about 3 to 5% of the contract price. So while some individuals lost fortunes, there was no systemic collapse. It was a painful lesson for a few, not a national catastrophe. Reflecting on this, as someone who's built things in the world of startups and tech, the real lesson of Tulip Mania isn't about flowers or foolishness. It's about narrative. We've reshaped this messy, complex historical event into a simple fable to fit our modern anxieties about Bitcoin, tech stocks, or housing markets. We crave the story of irrational greed and dramatic downfall. But reality is often more nuanced. It's about contract law, social networks, and the specific mechanics of a brand new, unregulated market. The crash wasn't in the tulips. It was in the trust between people. The next time you hear a modern story compared to Tulip Mania, you'll know the deeper truth. It was less a mania of the masses and more a speculative tremor in a single, overheated room. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. This was the Curiosity Compendium. I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi. This episode was produced by Light Knot Studios. Find more stories that question the obvious at https://www.lightknotstudios.com.